Welcome back to another week of refinishing. This week I was able to grab these really large sized, really nice sturdy nightstands. They are more modern, more new style. I was initially going to refinish these for a client, but they ended up being way too big for her new space, so I did make a trade for them. At first, I really was unsure what direction I wanted to go in with these ones. Because they are more modern, they're pretty simple in their style, and I really just wanted to do something a little bit more fun, go creative, a little bit outside of the box, and I think these will be a perfect candidate for what I am envisioning and what I'm hoping to achieve. So stick around for the rest of the video to see what I have up my sleeve and hopefully can accomplish in the end. These nightstands were mostly in good shape, but there were a couple imperfections. They were missing a couple handles, there are a couple chips in the finish, and one of the tops had a little bit of a bubble in the finish right here. All of this is pretty easily fixed. The drawer tracks, on the other hand, have seen better days. I am going to replace all these ball bearing drawer slides. In perusing through my collection of drawer tracks and leftover pieces from other projects, I was looking to see if there would be anything that would be a good replacement for these. These ones are 10 inches long, and I don't have any that small, but I do have ones that are 13 inches long. I have 6 of them, they're brand new, and I think they'll be a good replacement. I can always remove this block and this block from the back to give me some extra clearance so that I can install these in the correct positioning. And with that as my game plan, I can start taking apart the drawer tracks, unscrewing them, and removing those stop blocks that are in the back. Just really disassembling everything so that I have a good starting off point to get going. I always like to disassemble everything before I start the cleaning and prep process for priming and painting any pieces. All 6 drawers did have this decorative trim on the face of all the drawers. I am planning on removing this. This is something that I don't see in my final game plan, and I want just a flat drawer face. When I was starting, I didn't really know how they were held on. Come to find out, it's glue or some sort of adhesive like that, and these trim pieces are just glorified cardboard. They kind of fell apart a little bit while I was trying to take them all off, but because that is only made of cardboard, my sander should be able to get off the rest of it that I'm not able to get off with my scraper. There's still a little bit of a raised lip where the original detailed design was. Again, I'm going to use my sander, and if I need to use some fill, I can. It might seem a little backwards, but I am going to now take this opportunity to install my new drawer tracks. I could install them at the end, and then I wouldn't have to tape them off and make sure that they stay clean and functional while I'm refinishing the rest of these pieces. But I really want to make sure that I get those drawers in and placed properly, because you'll see later on, I need the drawers to be in their proper locations and in their proper positions in order to achieve that design element that I'm going to be applying on these nightstands. It is a little tricky because I am working with pre-existing locations that the drawer tracks absolutely have to go on. There is some additional material added to the sides of the drawer boxes, as well as the stringers that go across the inside cavity of the nightstand to install these drawer glides on. But I've already tackled one nightstand off camera, so I already have a plan of action on how it's very achievable. Now that everything has received a really thorough cleaning with a degreaser, I can go in and start to address filling the holes and the damage on those drawer fronts. I am going to be using a Bondo style filler. This is a 2-part epoxy system, and it creates a really hard, durable finish that has very minimal shrinking as it dries. I mix the 2 products very thoroughly on a scrap piece of cardboard, and I really press into those original screw holes that I want to fill and hide. I'm also going to address some of the tear out that I had on the front of these drawer faces from removing that original trim. I'm just going to put it on those porous surfaces that the actual finish got taken off. Next, I am going to scuff sand absolutely everything. I'm not looking to remove any of the finish, just really scuff up that factory shiny finish, make it not quite so slick, and give my surface a little bit of tooth for my primer and paint to adhere onto. Running my hand across the freshly sanded drawer faces, I could still feel a little bit of raised texture where that old trim was, and I really want to camouflage that as much as I can. So I'm going to take a lighter weight filler and just skim it over the top of the areas where that old trim was. This filler is really good at filling minor surface area scratches and areas that are not quite so deep. Once that's all dried out, I will go ahead and sand everything back once again. I am going to be using my favorite bin shellac primer on these nightstands. It has really great adhesion. I usually spray this product, but today I did opt to roll it on. I wanted to really make sure I got a nice thick coat on, as well as being able to really press it into any of the porous surfaces. Also, I just didn't feel like making a mess with my primer. I am going to leave these drawer boxes the original factory finish white, and I just did not want to get any sort of overspray of primer or paint on them at this time. Just using a disposable roller cover, I am going to roll this on and just smooth it over using a light hand after it's applied. This primer does dry really quickly, so you can't overwork it or else it will start to clump up and have a lumpier finish, but it is pretty sandable. So even if the roller does leave a little bit of texture behind, I can smooth sand that down and achieve a really smooth result at the end, even without spraying. Now that I have all that dusty sanding done, I am going to go ahead and remove the tape from these drawer tracks because I do want to install the drawers back in. In order to achieve that look that I've been hinting at this entire video, I do need all the drawers in and everything to be flush and flat and even. I'm gonna put a couple of little tabs of painter's tape just sticking up from inside the drawer. That way I have something to grab onto to open these drawers back up when I need to do so. Now that I have both of the nightstands all prepped and primed and ready for the next steps, I'm gonna share my design ideas. I'm gonna do something completely different. I've never done this before. I have seen several other refinishers do this and it's turned out lovely. There are some products on the market that have a similar idea, a similar feel. What I'm gonna do is I have a silicone mold and I have some quick setting resin, and I'm gonna create some floral imprints and attach them to the face of both of these nightstands in a hand-placed, delicate way, going up the side, mostly focusing on the front, but I do want to try to wrap some of them along the side a little bit. I think it's going to be such a fun design. It's going to be completely unique. These are going to be one of a kind. It's going to add a lot of texture, a lot of visual interest, and I think they're going to be really fun. This is the mold that I picked up. It has several really pretty options. I wanted to make sure that it was going to work out right. So I did several different tests to make sure that the mold was gonna work, that the resin was gonna work, and I'm really happy with the outcome. I went ahead and put down a piece of plastic because I know this is a messy process. I have a disposable cup, and with this particular resin, I picked it because it's really quick drying. It sets up within 10 minutes and you can remove it from the mold. It calls for equal parts of A and B. And since my mold is pretty small, I am going to just mix up a small quantity at a time. This particular packaging says to stir and stir and stir until it's all uniform in color and to really focus on scraping the sides and the bottom. I am going to work quickly and stir this thoroughly, but still keep in mind that this does set up pretty quickly. So I am going to stir and work fast once I have the two parts in the same cup. I did find that it's a little bit easier if you don't overfill these molds. It's okay if you do, you can cut away the excess, but if you do just barely enough, you won't have to do quite so much trimming. For this particular mold, I did overfill it and you can see how it seeped out. I'm just taking a scrap piece of wood as a cutting board and a really sharp knife. I'm just going to trim away those excess pieces. Luckily, they come out pretty easily from these molds. It's still a little delicate, so I am going to remove it very gently, but they pop right out. And because it's not overfilled, I'm not having a lot of messy edges. Now that I've done quite a few of these molds, I'm going to start by just laying out and guesstimating where I want these pieces to go. Before I glue anything down, I really want to make sure I have the entire picture the way I want it to look, and have it laid out in a really organic flow that looks natural and complements the size and shape. Now that I have a general layout of some of the floral imprints that I do want to use in different areas, I am going to glue it on using a 2-part quick setting epoxy glue. This is what was recommended as a good adhesive for resin, and it seems to be working pretty well so far. Of course, I have to mix up a small amount at a time, but that's okay. Per the packaging, this does take about 5 minutes to cure, so I am going to make sure that it's in place and then kind of leave it alone for 5 minutes. And then once that 5 minutes is done, that's when I can go in and score that line to free that drawer from the frame. I'm opting to do it this way because I want those seams to match up as nicely as possible. After giving the glue plenty of time to cure, I found it easiest to take my flush cut handsaw and just really carefully going in between that drawer face and the drawer frame to cut the molds where they need to be cut. This worked really well, and it did cut through that resin pretty cleanly. I was happy with the outcome, and I knew at the end I was going to be using my sander to clean up those edges, smooth them out a little bit, as well as making sure that clearance is as wide as it needs to be. And now it's time to start thinking about paint. I decided to go with this really dark, moody color called Regent Green by Benjamin Moore. It's a really beautiful, very dark, almost black, blue-green color. And I think that it's going to be that perfect touch for a dark academia set of nightstands. I really wanted to lean into the whimsical nature of these floral decals that I've added on, and this satiny, deep, dark finish is really going to enhance all the little details and make something that could come off leaning a little bit childish into a more adult category for someone's bedroom. And I think it was the absolute perfect choice for these pieces. This Command paint by Benjamin Moore sprays beautifully through my sprayer. I do like to water it down. I don't have a specific measurement. I basically just go and eyeball based off of the texture that I'm looking for. I don't do this often, but to finish off this look, I did also want to paint the backs of these nightstands. Once everything is all dry from the first coat, I will go ahead and take a very high grit, this is 400, sandpaper, and run it over all of the surfaces just to knock down any little dust bunnies that might have landed in the surface of the paint and prep the surface for that second coat. The second coat really deepens and richens that color. It's okay if you do see a little bit of the primer poking through the first coat. That second or third coat should really seal up the piece and make it a nice, rich looking color. Because I opted to spray with the drawers in, I knew that I was going to have to go back and do some hand painting on the edges of these drawer faces. That's easy enough. It's a small little detail, but it really does finish off and seal off a piece to have those edges nice and cleanly painted. I wasn't sure at the beginning what style of hardware I was going to pick, but I did decide to go with one large center knob. So I am going to create a hole in the center of this drawer face in order to install each of these 6 knobs. With a quick vacuum and a really thorough cleaning of all areas of the inside of this drawer, I am going to prep it to go back in the nightstand. Just like almost every piece, I love to add a print as a drawer liner. This one really did call for it because I left those white drawer boxes and they really did stand out against that really dark moody color. So I wanted to pick a print that had a little bit of both elements, some of those darker blue-green colors, as well as some lighter whites and tans, so that it ties everything all together. And let's look at them now. Aren't they absolutely amazing? I really was not sure how these would turn out in the end. I was a little iffy on the process, but just wanted to jump in feet first and fully embrace this look. Now, I knew that it was going to turn out a little bit different than my inspiration pictures. Those original pictures were just that, inspiration. I really wanted to take these in their own direction, and I think I really succeeded. They are so, so beautiful without feeling too young. I think that they could fit in a really dark and moody bedroom, and I'm so excited for their future owner to take them home. I hope you liked this process. Please feel free to check out one of my other videos. And if you liked it, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching.